Okay, so take a few minutes and make sure that you have completed your warm-up. Do your best to try and see what these missing or what these shapes represent, what values they represent. Go ahead and hit pause until you've had an opportunity to attempt all of those. Today, we are going to learn how to solve systems using the elimination method. So far, we have talked about how to solve systems by graphing, by the substitution method, and now finally the elimination method. You can solve a system using any one of these three. Usually one method is easier than the other. Substitution and elimination are an algebraic way of solving. Graphing is more of a visual way because we're doing it on a graph. But for all of these, the solution is always a point where the two lines would cross if we were to graph it. But again, we can solve that algebraically. So for the elimination method, we need to remember a couple of key ideas. So go ahead and hit pause and see if you can remember how to answer these questions. Combining like terms, 2x plus 4x is 6x. 7y minus 8y is negative 1y or negative y. 3x minus 3x is 0x, but 0x is 0. It means you have 0 x's. So there's 0 there. So we're going to write it like this. Adding vertically, 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 plus a negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 3 plus a negative 3 is negative 6. 4 plus a negative 4 is 0. Hit pause if you need to. If that didn't make sense, hit pause and try to understand why that's true. Let your brain process what I just said, or rewind it and watch it over again. Next page. The elimination method. Tips: make sure that you are solving for both the x and the y values and that we put our answers in the form of x comma y, written as a point. Here are some steps to help make sure that you can use the elimination method correctly. Step 1, make sure both equations are in the same order, x, y, equal sign. Here I've got the x term, y term, equal sign, normal number. X term, y term, equal sign, normal number. Both equations are in the same order. That should say step 2. Make sure one of the variables will be eliminated when you add them up vertically. If not, we don't have to worry about that on this first example. So I'm going to add these up vertically, and I'm going to draw a line down the equal sign. When I add these up vertically, x plus 5x is 6x. Negative 2y plus 2y makes a 0. I have just eliminated the y's by adding them vertically, hence the elimination method. Negative 19 plus 1 is negative 18. Now I only have x left and I can solve for x. Divide both sides by 6, x equals negative 3. Hit pause, rewind it, watch it again. Make sure that your brain is processing what we're talking about. And again, if this is confusing, just know we have a total of 5 examples we're going to do. Every example, this is going to make more sense and it's going to seem easier every step we do. We're not done. Step 3, solve for the remaining variable. We found x, but we still need to find y. So I'm going to plug this back into one of the original equations. It does not matter which one. Plug it into whatever one you think is going to be easier. I don't think it matters, so my preference in this case is going to be, not there, plugging it in for the x on this bottom equation. So I'm going to rewrite the bottom equation exactly as I see it, but instead of x, I'm going to put negative 3. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. If I'm going too fast, hit pause so you can get caught up. Add 15 to both sides. 2y is equal to 16. Y is equal to 8. Final answer, the point where these two lines would cross if I were to graph them would be negative 3 comma 8. See if you can try B on your own. Hit pause right now and see if you can beat me to the answer, and then watch as I solve to see if you did it correctly. Step 1, make sure they're in the same order. Yx equal sign, Yx equal sign. Yes. Now, what I'll notice is that the positive 3x and negative 3x are going to make a 0. So these are going to be eliminated when I add them vertically. Y plus 2y is 3y. Negative 2 plus 14 is 12. Hit pause if you need to. Divide both sides by 3. Y is equal to 4. Now I can plug this back in to any of the original equations. This time I'm going to plug it into the top because I feel like it. But you can plug it into the bottom and we should get the same answer. So instead of y plus 3x equals negative 2, I'm going to put empty parentheses and plug the y in that I found. I'm solving for x, so first I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. And my final answer is negative 2 comma 4. If I went too fast, hit pause. Rewind it. Listen to it again. Hit pause until you've caught up with your writing, and then flip to the next page. So, on this page, we're going to discover that this middle step, step 2, we're going to have to pay attention to. So first, let's make sure it's in the same order. X, Y equal sign, X, Y equal sign. Check. Step 2, make sure one of the variables would be eliminated when you add them up vertically. X and 7x are 8x. Negative y and negative y make negative 2y. So they're not eliminated. So what I can do is I can multiply one of the entire equation by one number that would allow that to happen. Or sometimes you have to multiply both equations by a number to make that happen. So let me show you what that's going to look like. In this case, if I were to multiply the top equation by negative 1, or technically I could multiply the bottom by negative 1, but if I multiply one of these equations by negative 1, what's going to happen is it's going to distribute to everything and become negative x plus y equals negative 3. Be careful that you change every single sign, because negative times a positive makes that negative, negative times a negative makes the y positive, and negative times a positive 3 makes a negative 3. Now I'm just going to rewrite the bottom one exactly as I saw it. And now step 2 is ready. One of these variables is going to be eliminated. Positive y and negative y. Negative x plus 7x makes 6x. Negative 3 make negative 6. Divide both sides by 6. X equals negative 1. Hit pause and process what just happened, and then beat me to figuring out what the y value would be. So I'm going to plug this back in to one of these equations, doesn't matter which one. I guess I'm going to, whatever, I'm just going to plug it into the bottom. But if you plugged it into the top, that's okay. We're going to get the same answer, as long as neither one of us make a mistake. So that becomes negative 1. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. Add 7 to both sides. This is negative 1 times y, so divide both sides by negative 1. Y equals negative 4. Final answer, negative 1 comma negative 4. Ask yourself, what could we do to make one of these variables disappear? In this case, there's not a number that I could multiply one or both of these equations by, so I'm going to be a little careful. And again, I get it if this isn't making sense yet, but the more we do and after we get done with them, that's when you're like, oh, okay. So for this first one, what I notice is I have a 2 and a 5. If I multiply this top equation by -5, then that becomes negative 10x. Actually, I don't need to multiply it by a negative, sorry. Let me wipe that out. My goal is going to be to turn these x's into a positive 10x on top and a negative 10x on bottom. To do that, I'm going to multiply the top one by 5, and I'm going to multiply the bottom one by 2. So I'm just flipping their numbers around out here. I could focus on the y's, but what would that even be? 40? I would have to turn them into a positive 40y and a negative 40y, and that would just make these really big. So it's easier to do this. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times 8y is still 40y. 5 times 6 is 30. Multiplying the bottom ones, 2 times -5 is negative 10x. 2 times negative 20y is negative 40y. Ooh, this is getting interesting. 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. Let's see what just happened here. 10 minus 10 is 0. We've eliminated the x's. 40y and negative 40y, we just eliminated the y's. We're left with 0 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, 30 minus 30 is 0. What the heck is that? Is 0 equal to 0? Yes, it's true, which means that actually every single number would be a solution, because in this case, this is one of those situations, there are infinitely many solutions. That's our final answer. So think about it. When we solve systems, we could end up with one solution because when graphed, the lines cross in exactly one spot, or we could have no solutions because when we graph them, they are parallel, or we could have infinitely many solutions because when we graph them, they are the same line. So we just proved algebraically that these would have infinitely many solutions because they are actually the same line. Hit pause, let your brain process that. If you don't like it, watch it one more time. Watching this 2 and 3 and 4 times makes this make a lot more sense. One more example. XY equal sign, XY equal sign. They're in the same order. Now ask yourself, what could you multiply these by so that way a variable would be eliminated? What's your easiest option? Because there are an infinite number of ways we could do this. Hit pause and try to figure it out. I see that this bottom is a 2x. If I multiplied this entire top equation by -2, then my x's would cancel. -2 times x. Actually, hit pause and beat me to the next part. -2 times x is -2x. -2 times positive 7y is -14y. -2 times 0 is 0. I'm going to leave the bottom one exactly as is and just rewrite it. Now hit pause and beat me to the next steps. -2x and positive 2x make a 0. They're eliminated. -14 and -8 is -22y. 0 and 22 is 22. This is -22 times y, so divide both sides by -22. Y is equal to -1. Plug this back into one of the original answers. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to plug it into that top one because that is definitely easier. I'm going to rewrite it. X plus 7y equals 0. But instead of y, I have -1. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. Add 7 to both sides. X equals 7. Final answer, 7 comma negative 1. If you feel like your mind is blown and you turn the page and you look at the first one and you have absolutely no idea what to do, then re-watch the video. It's only 15 minutes long. Re-watch it. Let your brain process this. The more you see it, the more you hear it, the easier it gets. So what you're going to do right now is your homework, which is on the next 2 pages. Okay? And so that includes this other page as well, which is mostly a review of the first 2 levels. But as you're doing this one, your x's are not going to eliminate right away. So don't be afraid to multiply either the top equation or the bottom equation by negative 1. And then you're ready to go. Or you could focus on getting rid of the y's, whatever works for you. Or maybe start with number 8 or number 6, because those ones are easier than 5 and 7. So at this point, you should either re-watch the video or be getting started on your homework assignment.